Hello, what's up, everyone? So, welcome to today's live stream. Sony this morning announced the release of the 35mm 1.4 G Master. This has been a long time in the waiting, and this particular lens is something that a lot of Sony shooters, including myself, have been looking out for a long time. It's always been exciting when a new lens like this comes into the market, because then it comes with a whole new technology that everybody is working with. So it's always an attractive point. But me, from the perspective of being a business person and then looking at how best this can help my photography business, I'm going to look at the specifics or the specifications and then compare it with other Sony lenses. Today's review is just reviewing the specs, but I'm hoping that in the coming days, I'll have the chance to have this lens and then see how it tests out with the rest. So when this lens came out, one of the first things that they did was I saw from a video from the Sony camera channel, and I'm going to share the video with you, and then we are all going to take a listen and see some of the specs that they were talking about in the video. So I think we can all just watch it together and see how it goes. So this point is talking about how the details show in the video. And looking at the 1.4 effect of it, you see how the bokeh is. And it shoots very close. I'll explain that in details because of the 0.27 meters. And this is how bright it is. And this ISO 100. So it talks about the linear motor that it uses two motors for the focus. And you see how quick the focus is. It's so fast. It also has the real-time eye AF support, so it's so incredible. It's a lens that you can use for vlogging, and you're not going to miss any focus. Even when shooting at 4K 120 frames, it still tracks accurately. So it's so exciting. Looking at how much range this provides us. So look at how much range, how much light it lets in. So guys, like mainly looking at this lens, you see how powerful it is, and some of the elements in the lens are so exclusive that you realize how important it is for most of the things that we do, which is including photography and video. So this is more of an upgrade from what they had the last time. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take us through the similarities and then the differences between what they had previously and then what they have now. And so you see whether it's really worth the money that you would want to invest in it. So I'll quickly bring this up. The comparison, I put the comparison sheet comparing a number of lenses, because we always want to see the range point as well. So quickly, this is a comparison sheet I put from DP Review, and it's comparing all these lenses. So this is the lens that we are currently talking about. That's the Sony FE 35mm 1.4 GM. That's the master. And this one is the Zeiss 35 1.4, which used to be the kingpin when it comes to lenses, Sony lenses, the 35. And then Sony also had the FE35 1.8. But before then, they already had a Sony 35 1.4G. And then we also look at the Sigma as well, and they see how it relates with all of that. One of the first things that we are going to look at is definitely one thing that a lot of people are going to talk about, which is the price of the lens. The price of this lens, although it's still not been brought out yet, when you look on a website like B&H puts it around 1,398 as before taxes. So it's kind of reduced compared to the other lenses, the other lens on the market, which is the Zeiss lens. But then it's twice the amount of the 35 1.8. So this is more like a sacrifice on the aperture, the minimum aperture blade that you can go in for. Now, if you look at the announcement, as I said, it was released today, 13 January 2021. But before then, Sony had released the Zeiss lens, which came in 2015. However, because of a few things about the Zeiss lens being a little bit costly, which was in the range of 1,500 to 1,600 USD, Sony brought in the FE35 1.8, which was about half the price. So if you look at it carefully, you see that the 35 1.8 was about half the price of the Zeiss lens. But before then, Sony had released the 35 1.4G in 2006. So this was like a couple of years back. And that cost almost the same as what the 35 1.4G Master costs now. So Sony has not really moved the price much when you look at the GM and then the G lens from between 2006 and 2021. That's a lot of years between that. But Sony has not moved it that much. Let's just compare it to a third-party lens, which is a Sigma 35 1.4. That's about twice the price, because the Sigma stands around $700, but then the Sony costs around $1,400. So that's about twice the price. But then if you look at the years difference, because the Sigma lenses came out to 2012 compared to the Sony lenses, which came out in 2021. So there might be a shift in the technology a little bit. But then there is always this issue that comes with full frame Sony lenses. Although it's full frame, it still doesn't have the image stabilization. So that's one thing that you should be looking out for. This particular lens, that's the Sony FE35 1.4G Master, does not have the image stabilization with it. It's still the same stabilization that is in the Zeiss lens and also in the 35 1.8. There is no stabilization in those as well. There's no IS in there. So the Sony still has no IS in this lens. When you look at the maximum aperture, the GM 1.4 GM has 1.4 as the maximum aperture, and then a minimum of f16. But then the good side of it is the fact that it has 11 diaphragms. That it has more elements in there. It has 14 elements compared to the Zeiss lens, which has just 9 and then has 12 elements in there. So when you look at the optics, it's like the optics is more upgraded in this term, although the Zeiss and then the Sony 1.4 GM is around the same price, but then you have different elements in there. Now, these elements means that it's likely that the Sony FE 35 1.4 GM is going to bring in more light compared to the Zeiss 1.4. So that is a good advantage over there. They both have advantage over the 1.8, which is 1.8 and then maximum 22. Now, the 1.8 did not have an aperture ring, but then the Zeiss has an aperture ring, so does the 35 1.4 G Master. So it's a great value when you look at it from that angle. One important thing that a lot of people look at is the minimum focus. How close can you be to that particular subject? And I feel at this point you have the Sony 1.4 GM doing a very good job because it's just 0.27 meters away from the subject. You can still have focus. But then when it comes to the Zeiss, it was a 0.3 meters focus. So that is a good thing there. One thing also is the motor type. You have a linear motor, so it just goes in and out, which is really good, and it's silent. That creates a silence when it comes to that. The focus note is also dual linear, but there's a new technology when you compare it to the size and all of that. Now, another important thing that a lot of people look at is when it comes to the physical nature of it. You have the Sony FE lens weighing 524 grams. That's 1.16 pounds. So, you know, you look at the G Master lens weighing a bit less compared to that of the Zeiss. And then in terms of looking at the length as well, it's shorter and then it's smaller compared to the Zeiss lens. So those are two really good. And it's also coated with the magnesium alloy. So you realize that when it comes to Sony, it has a lot of weather resistance, and that's one of the reasons why it's a bit expensive compared to the third-party lenses because of this weather resistance. The thread is 67, which is comparable with most of the threads, but it's not as large as that of the Zeiss, which is 72. So that's one thing that you look out for there. So basically, all in all, one might ask that why should I go in for the G Master instead of probably going in for the Zeiss? Although the prices are around the same, one thing you should know is that because of the elements, it's going to be a bit more sharper. And then also one thing is because of the elements in there, there'll be a bit more light coming in. Another thing you should know is this change in technology. The silent nature of it is much more silent than the Zeiss. And one more thing is the closeness or the minimum focus. You can get closer, although it's not that much, but 0.03 meters is a bit much. You can get in a bit tighter to the subject. But I'll say there hasn't been much change when you look at the variable between what Sony had in 2006 and now. It's just that there is a much change in terms of technology, in terms of prices whatsoever. But then when I look at the business side of it, would you go in for the 1.4, which is twice the amount of the 1.8? I would say it highly depends on the value or exactly how much you have. If you are a startup, you'll probably prefer to go in for the 1.8 right now. And then as you grow in the business, you will be able to grow better. Who knows, by the time you get to a point where you can make a business case to get the 1.4, then you can go in for it. But then if you have the ability to choose between the Sony 35 1.4 G Master and then the Zeiss 1.4, my recommendation would definitely to go in for the Sony 1.4 G Master, and that's because of the eye focus, the fast tracking, because it's able to track you faster, which means you can use this easily for your video as well as use this for your pictures. And you know, one of the great advantages of the eye focus is you can do focus tracking and take your pictures at best mode quickly. So between the G Master and the Zeiss, the G Master is way ahead of its game right now, and that will be an excellent addition to whoever. There are a lot of people who have covered these images. One of them being Manny Ortiz, and Manny Ortiz video, he says that there's a bit of a color shift. There's better colors with the Sony 35mm G Master compared to the Zeiss. So that's one thing that I have not seen for myself, but with Manny Ortiz shooting a lot with the Sony and understanding its features better is something that you wouldn't want to discredit. So all in all, I'll say that when it comes to this particular lens, I would say that it's a game changer for Sony right now. It's something that nobody would like to discredit at this moment. This is going to be a lens that a lot of people will be using for a very, very long time. And we all know how good the G Master lenses are. So let's stay tuned. Let's see how this goes. There might be a lot more review. Just know that this review was not sponsored, by the way. But if you want to support the channel, you can hit the subscription button, or you can leave a comment on any other videos that you like to see from me. And then you can also go through the affiliate links if you need any of these lenses for now. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining this live session. I'll see you soon.